inventions. So he was saying, if you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so not everybody realize that our world is not just like what we see with our eyes, right? So think about everything, your cell phone, your computer, your hand, right, your hair. So everything, if you go down to the bottom, we have items, sub-items. At the quantum level, it's just a wave of energy. And so the universe is actually, in its essence, the existence of it just different energy. So our thoughts and our feelings, they do produce energy or like vibration, like different frequency. And so that's what scientists found out these days, right? And so next, I'm going to introduce this book. The book was written by a Japanese scientist, and his name is Masaru Emoto. And I don't know if anyone knows or heard about this book. He actually has several books. One is like Water Knows the Answers, and The Hidden Message in Water. I think he had a third one. He had like several books. So he spent close to like 15 years doing different experiments. So mostly involved like use a high-speed camera to take photo of water crystal, right? So he put different labels on the water, and then he take pictures. And sometimes he even put a bottle of water in between two people and play different music to the water, then take pictures and see how the picture look like. And so interesting, the book says, so when they play like classic music, like Beethoven's music, the water crystal look very pretty in the camera. But when they play like the hard rock with a very offensive lyrics, and the water crystal even shatter into pieces. Right? And so what they found out is when you label or say prayer or sing or label, or sometimes just put a piece of paper, put a label on the bottle of water, and they put in the refrigerator, then they take a picture, right? So when they put the label like compassion, I love you, thank you, right? And the water crystal looked very pretty. And the most pretty crystal, when they put compassion and love, right? And when they put the word like little label, like you're full, and I'll kill you, and all those, and the water crystal, first of the color sort of like a gray, is not as like brilliant as the compassion one. It's like very dull and gray, and also the pattern sort of ugly. Like they have like in the book the different comparison, and when they say like I love you, they have this very bright, pretty picture, and when they say like evil, and the picture sort of look really ugly. When you say you're full, also the picture doesn't really come close to the brightness and pretty image of those like nice words, right? And when you say like negative thoughts, then the water crystal shows like very dull color and just not pretty. So one thing the book didn't mention is like, what about people? Think about like our body is like a 70% water, right? If they can have that impact on natural water, like spring water, bottled water, how about our body? And so when we have different thoughts, say to ourselves, and if words can have an impact on the water, and I'm pretty sure it should have impact on our body too. And so here I'm going to use a few quotes from this book, The Hidden Message in Water. I just use 3. So to give you positive or negative attention to something is a way of giving energy. The most damaging form of behavior is withholding your attention, negligence, right? Withholding your attention is very damaging. Love and gratitude, and when they use this word, the crystal is as perfect as can be. This indicates that love and gratitude are fundamental to the phenomenon of life in all of nature. So when they put label like love and gratitude, the crystal shows the most beautiful picture. And they also further experimenting showed that the water exposed to positive expressions like "let's do it" created attractive, well-formed crystals, but the water exposed to negative expression like "do it" barely formed any crystal at all. So you can because all the life exists as a form of energy, and all the thoughts have vibration, and all called energy frequency. So that have an impact to water and shows in the water crystal. So that's the water knows the answer. The first one I want to illustrate like our thoughts, how our thoughts have an impact on things. So the second example I want to use is the map of consciousness done by David Hawkins. Right, so he have a lot of titles, and he's a spiritual leader, and he also found some like consciousness research, and he had a lot of books. I put like 3 here. Right, so he did research in 20 years, and they use this kinesiology, some technique. I think basically they detect the vibration of your muscle, right? And so they did like millions and millions, like they use that machine to detect the vibrating frequency of different statements, thoughts, photos, art, music, and they do that in people to different people just to test their frequency. And so based on his research of 20 years, so he developed into this emotional scale. And so in this emotional scale, he has different emotion. He assigned a value, right? And the lowest one is like shame, guilt, right? And the neutral one, I think neutral one is here, just above courage. And the higher your goal, the more positive, the happier the person is. And not only that person himself experience like peace, joy, even people around that person so feel the calmness, peace, and joy too, just because that person have a higher energy. So a higher energy person actually can I guess can burn up the energy of the other people. I think we all have this experience, right? So sometimes you just meet a stranger, but somehow you feel comfortable to stay with that person. And sometimes you meet this one, you just want to get away. I mean, you don't even know why don't I stay with that person? I don't like to stay with that person. I have this fuzzy feeling, or sometimes you feel agitated, or you have more in negative emotion when you're around someone. So energy matters. And so the person, because that person, even though he didn't do anything, right, but everybody have this energy frequency. So when the person have very low frequency, that impact other people too. You just don't feel comfortable be around that person, right? And so his map of consciousness, he has like different, I guess 17 levels. And the lowest one is shame, right? So people at this level, so they feel like humiliated, and they have very low self-esteem. And his book says people, if they stay long enough in this level, they develop into a lot of problems, even become criminal. And the second lowest one is guilt. So they feel like blame and remorse. And this one also, we all know what guilt can lead to like self-destruction. And the next one is apathy. So that's the state of despair and helplessness. So people in this level, they're very needy and dependent. So maybe you can see that in some like elders, right? So they are in this level, they feel helplessness. And next one is grief. So even grief actually higher than guilt and shame, right? And so grief, you feel like regret, sadness, and loss, right? So some people temporarily, if you experience like a major loss in your life, so some people temporarily have this vibration, but most people can just get out. They don't stay here for long. And the next level is fear, right? So fear, so this level, the dominant emotion is anxiety. And I think lately we can see, right? So this anxiety, how that impact people. So we have fear a lot of things. So fear of uncertainty, fear what's going to happen to myself, to my friend. You know, we can name many things that we can fear about life. And the next one is desire, right? So desire drive people to do things, but then it also shows a lot of unsatisfactoriness, because most things we desire, we can't really get it. When you don't get it, then you feel disappointed. And so anger is Hikasonic 150, and the dominant emotion at this level is hate, right? I think now if you like really look around in 2020, 2021, we can really sense a lot of this fear and anger. And so this one expresses itself as resentment, frustration, and revenge. And next level is pride. So people, most people, right, take pride based on their possession and external conditions. And that really cannot last long, because if your pride is based on external conditions change, and you don't really have that much control. And the turning point, so he said at courage. So at this level, right, so people, they have the ability to discern like truth from falsehood. And people be underneath this level, right? So sometimes they have a hard time to judge what is true and what is not true. And they're very easily to be influenced by others, by false news, because the energy level is so low. If they're dominated by fear and by anger, and they lost the judgment, and they cannot tell truth from falsehood. And I think we can see a lot of that in 2020, and people just, they can't tell. So that's come to this point. And the neutrality is at 250. And so this emotion is trust and safety, right? And then this one, I think trust and safety is not based on judgmental. It's actually should be non-judgmental. It's not judgmental. It's actually very objective, and they're able to see things as they truly are. So that's the neutral emotion. And when we can go over, actually, if you're above 250, so you can consider yourself to be a high energy or high frequency person. Your vibration is like you have good vibration, a good vibe, kind of what some may call. And so people at this level, like 310, and this individual is open. They're open to do things. And the next one is acceptance. So this level, right, we realize happiness come within. So we are our own creator and the source of life. So you no longer depend on external things for your happiness, for your pride, and for your self-esteem. And you know, like things like you really treasure is within. And the next one is reason. And people at this level, they like to collect data and do a lot of analysis. And then it can also go wrong if you do too much analysis. So love is very high energy level. So this love is not like the narrow sensed love most people understand, just like love between individual. And this love represents like unconditional love. So unconditional love means it's not subject to any external conditions. You just love that thing, and regardless what happened, your love is not changed. And so people at this level, their life view is very benign. So Hawkins, he claims only 0.4% of the population. So meaning 1 in every 250, they can reach this level. So not that common. So when I see this level, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, so starting from here, I start thinking of Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa, she is my hero. And so I can see she is almost like an embodiment of love, joy, and peace. And next one is joy, right? So this dominant emotion is serenity and compassion. And also, so this is the inner joy. It's not like you draw pleasure. You draw pleasure from different like things, but this is the joy coming from within. And this is joy you can arise from like every moment of your existence, regardless of what happened, you can have this inner joy. And so people at this level, so they feel the completeness of their life. And I'd like to hear your share actually after this. And because sometimes like even myself, so you just feel like you have this joy just coming out. It's not like something you can stop, just coming out. And so I'd like to know if anybody have this experience, just feel this joy, like almost like a spring water coming out. And this one is peace. Peace is sort of like you really feel the bliss. And this is obtained only 1 out of 10 million people. I don't know how many people in this world can experience this, 600. And enlightenment. So enlightenment, so this is the highest level of human consciousness. So enlightenment, maybe throughout human history, we can name a few people at this level, like Buddha, Jesus. This is like it's beyond our like normal word, right? We cannot express this level. And so that's the map of consciousness developed by Hawkins. And here's the example, like Mother Teresa. And according to him, so Mother Teresa, so is a 700. So it's even above love. And so their experiment shows like 85% of human population actually falls below 200. And I don't know if you get surprised or not to see this number. And it's actually fluctuating between the level of shame and pride. So that means most people, they don't really have this security inside, right? So whatever they feel coming from outside, so outside things change their mind, and they don't really have a good independent judgment. So their view can be easily influenced by other things. And so one thing like important for us, right? It says a person attracts people, objects, ideas, and situation that vibrates at a level similar to him or her. So if you, a person at a lower level, you attract things at a lower level. A higher level person will attract ideas, situation at a higher level. And so my understanding is if you live on second floor, right, you meet people, you see different things on second floor. And if you live on fifth floor, you meet people on fifth floor. And so people have similar frequency, and they will get together with people with like similar energy frequency. And so that's why it's so important to improve, make our frequency higher, because that's your word, right? That's people, objects, idea, what else you have, that's your word. You live in a high energy world if your own energy is high. And so what's sort of scary is this spiral, right? So high upward spiral and lowered spiral. Spiral means, and I think you can all understand, like when you feel upbeat, right? When you feel positive, it's easier to go through the next level. You feel more and more upbeat. And if you feel low, right? And I think we all have the experience too. If you sometimes you feel really low, and you sort of like you go through this down spiral. You can go from low to lower. And so this is something we really need to be very aware, because you want to catch yourself before you go down any lower. You want to be aware, and you want to bring it up, because once you go too low, it's very hard to come back. And so that's the consciousness. And so the book lists like different attitudes, like from lower versus higher. One side, I'm not going to go through this, it's just you can see like a few. And they have like impatient versus tolerant, demand versus prefer, just different one side, lower versus higher. So that's from that book. And there's a tool. So if you're curious, what is my vibrational scale, right? So there's a tool you can use. So there's a balance wheel, and the balance wheel, they mark you like our life in 7 key areas. And this one is like the scale. And so when life at a higher energy level, your life is expanding, and at the lower level is contracting. I think that can be very easily understand when depression person, you can see even from that person's body gesture, like the whole body like contracting, right? And so I'm going to go through this little, very easy actually, right? So that will, you pretty much have seven area. And so one is physical, just like 7 key area in our life. So physical, 2 intellectual, 3 emotional, 4 spiritual, 5 relationship, 6 environment, and 7 livelihood. So you divide this wheel at 7 area, and then you assign different points. So points like this. So one is always low, mostly low, low enough, so, good enough, good, great, excellent, more than I can ask for. And 10 is can't ask for better. That's like a perfect life. All right. So you measure your physical, your intellectual, and you give a mark. Like this person for physical, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, he put a 5. So 5, like good enough, right? And for intellectual, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he put a 7, it's great. So you pretty much read a different score in each area, right? And so when you're done, when you assign the score to all the 7 area, then you add up all the numbers and then divide it by 7. And when you do that by 7, so that give you a number. So if we add that this person, for example, he has some different scores. He has some like number 3 emotion. He has some very emotion excellent, right? He will have very high score to this area. And so you add up all the score and divide by 7. So that's your own like a state of energy. And then you can come to this. So a person at for example, if he's average like 6 or 7, I think this person is pretty high. And that means he's at between reason and love. So reason and love, it's, I think somewhere here, like 400, between 400 and 500. So that's like a high energy person. You can see he's pretty satisfied with most aspect of his life. The only area that is have a lower score is the physical, but it's good enough. Doesn't really bother him because his other things are so high. And number 7, like livelihood. Livelihood means your job, your career, your finance. This is high. And 6, environment, like place you live, your surroundings. He's very happy with the place he lives. So this is like a very happy person, and he had like several like very high score. So that's the exercise we can do to see our own current state of energy. Right? And so far we have 2 examples. Like one is the water image, the other one is consciousness map to show us how our energy level impact different aspect of our life. And I think I'm going to skip. So this one shows if a person have low vibration, meaning energetic frequency, what's the physical symptoms. So if a person under 150, for example, right, so the whole life is contracting. So the person might experiencing like tightness in the chest or the diagram, and having rapid breathing, finding you have shaking hands, having digestive problems, feeling heaviness in the body, experiencing physical pain. I think this part, many people understand. Sometimes people have physical pain without obvious reason, and that could be related to like low energy level. And tiredness, headaches, feeling nauseous, have a dry mouth. So all this related to like a low energy level. And so the last part is because we are here to learn like where emotion come from. So emotion actually that doesn't come by itself, right? And there's a whole process. So this is from my life coach school, right? So emotion, the process starts with a situation. So you have a stimulus, and based on the stimulus, the situation, we generate a thought. So we do an interpretation, and then we have a thought. So the thought is actually based on core belief, because even though the same thing happened, but different people can have different interpretation. So based on our interpretation, we have a body reaction. You may feel tightness in the chest. You may feel hot. You may feel a heartbeat picking up. You'll feel happy. And there's a physical reaction. And the physical reaction, then our mind do a little interpretation of the physical reaction. Hey, why I have this feeling? Then we have a label, anger. And then you have emotion. So all these different steps, it happens in a split second. And we like ordinary people, we don't even notice. We just, all of a sudden, we feel happy, we feel angry. So they actually have all the steps. So based on cognitive behavioral therapy, so there's three things, like our thoughts. You have thoughts. Our thoughts generate feelings, and feelings drive our behavior. And so these three things work together, because like feelings, you're happy, you're angry, then you do something. And so all this is surrounded by our core belief. Core belief, you can interpret that as a mode of thinking, our habituation of thinking. And so our life, or from the time we grown up, we have different exposure, and we sort of used to a certain way of thinking. So that's the core belief. And if you look at the process, if we want to have a desired emotion, right? So you sort of have to trace back, and we cannot, this is part we cannot change. You cannot change your physical reaction. And once your physical reaction already happened, and we're going to have automatic interpretation, and that generate emotion. So this part is very hard to change. So the place that we can change is the thought, right? Because situation is fixed. We cannot change the situation. But once a situation happens, the space that we can navigate is the thought. So even if something happen, I don't have to have that thought. So if we don't want to have that the undesirable, unbeneficial emotion, then we need to change our thought. We need to change a more beneficial thought that can generate a more beneficial emotion. So this is the space that we can work on to change thought, right? To change thought, change emotion, meaning change feeling and change behavior. And the thought is based on our core belief. So core belief is something we really have to be very diligent to work on, because we spend our lifetime thinking this way. And so first of all, you have to be mindful, like what emotion I have now. You need to identify that emotion. Why I have that emotion? Because I have this thought. And so if you want to have a quick fix, you can generate a more like positive thought. But to have, I guess, impact in the long run, we have to change our core belief. So core belief, we can generate thought generate feeling generate behavior. So this is the space that we can work on, the thought and core belief. So that's where the mind shift come. So mind shift meaning we want to replace our limiting belief or disempowering belief to a more empowering belief. And so there's many examples of what is limiting, disempowering belief, because those triggers unhappiness. And sometimes I think you can hear yourself talking. You have this inner voice tell you want to do something. You say, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I cannot do this." And so though all this are like disempowering belief. And so some examples say people say, "Hey, women cannot fight more, and not men aren't flexible." So all those are a limiting belief. And so empowering belief, like we call it positive affirmation, but those, it's not like a slogan, right? You say it, if you cannot convince yourself, you cannot change your mind. And you sort of have to very, very rationally analyze why this statement is true. That's why knowing the truth is important. So this is the exercise we can do. So why I can take responsibility? Because in the past, I have this, I have this, I have this. You need to convince yourself. And so Anthony Robbins, he's a very, again, maybe he's they famous, like life coach. He has this book, Find That Giant Within. So in his book, so he gave an example of this 4-minute mile, right? The story of the 4-minute mile, right? So for thousands of years, so people believe that it's impossible for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes, right? But in 1954, so this person, so Roger Bannister, so he broke this record. So he ran underneath 4 minutes. So the way he did it is before he even actually like physically do it, in his mind, he visualized himself doing this many, many times. In his mind, he trained his mind first, and he really did it. So once he ran under 4 minutes, right? Because he did it. Now people know that belief, human being cannot run a mile under 4 minutes, is not true. It's a limiting belief. And so within a year after he broke the record, so 37 other runners also broke it. So he used this example as how people can be limited by their own belief. So once you change your belief, you can have develop, I guess, more potential. You can bring out more potential, right? And so this is where the mind shift take place. You replace limiting belief with empowering belief. And so last, I just want to point out, right? So our happiness actually lies in our mind, and our mind can be trained, and therefore, so happiness can be obtained by training our mind. And so we cannot control a lot of things, like the world, things happen, but our mind is something we can work on. So there's a saying by Buddha, actually. So what you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. And there's also a quote by Edmund Spencer. So it is the mind that makes good or evil, that makes rich or happy, rich or poor. And so we can see like how important the mind is. Okay, someone said, let's see. Yeah, maybe I'll share this slide somewhere. Then I need to find on Google Drive and share a link or something. So that's what I want to share. So anybody want to share your thoughts? Have questions?